Good evening, everyone, and welcome to After Hours with Team William O'Neill India. So we'll just wait for some 30 seconds and then begin as few guys are still getting in the waiting room. Okay, so let's begin today's session. So with a disclaimer, yes, as always, that please do not consider whatever we discuss as a recommendation to buy or sell. So this is just for the educational purpose and the knowledge sharing purpose. So today's action, there was a weak start following global cues. So Friday, US market closed almost flat, but what happened that after moving higher, it went lower and closed almost flat. So that was not a very constructive action for the day, but anyways, it didn't slip into the red and mostly closed flat. So Indian markets today opened a bit lower, but there was no major action actually in the first half. And, yes, so it was trading in a small range bound market tha pura in the first half, but I think then there was a very good momentum, and Nifty crossed around 250 level and वहां से थोड़ा नीचे आया लास्ट आवर में, but then also the closing was above 16200 level, which is very good. So what happened over here is कि यहाँ पे जो 50-day moving averages है, that was not breach. वहाँ पे निफ्टी को support मिला, and that is constructive. So whenever index reclaim its key moving averages such as 21 DMA, 50 DMA, और वहाँ पे support ले लेता है in the coming few sessions, then that's always positive. Like say in the US market में क्या हुआ था? Couple of weeks back, there was a follow through day. फॉलो थ्रू डे यानी कि वी हैव डिस्कस्ड इट दैट 1.5% गेन ऑन अ हायर वॉल्यूम, और यूएस मार्केट में वो अप ट्रेंड में शिफ्ट किया गया था. बट once it got shifted in uptrend, there was again very volatile moves, and I think एक दो दिन में ही डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन डे आ गया था, which is loss of 0.2% on a higher volume. और जो फॉलो थ्रू डे का हाई था वहां से रिवर्सल भी आया था, एंड फॉलो थ्रू डे का डे लो ब्रीच हो गया था. सो अगेन द यूएस मार्केट वाज शिफ्टेड बाय आवर ग्लोबल टीम टू अंडर प्रेशर. सो अंडर प्रेशर आने के बाद लास्ट वीक वाज अ गुड वन, नॉट ओनली फॉर द इंडियन मार्केट बट द यूएस मार्केट एज वेल. कोई भी डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन डे, मतलब कोई भी मेजर साइन ऑफ वीकनेस नहीं दिखा था लास्ट वीक में. प्लस 21 डीएमए के ऊपर ट्रेड कर रहे हैं यूएस के सारे इंडाइसेस with just 1 and 2 distribution days. So not a bad setup over there also, but you can't say that's something very good, because still a lot of percentage of Nasdaq stocks are trading below its 200-day moving average. India may, if you see, like a lot of stocks, now are trying to move above its 200-day moving average, 50-day moving average. So last week ही हमने देखा FMCG stocks सारे 200-day moving average reclaim किया, फिर 50 किया, and almost 5-7% वहां से ऊपर आ गए. So I'm not telling that the technical deterioration जो लास्ट मंथ में था उससे उतना नहीं है, अभी थोड़ा सा इम्प्रूव हुआ है, but that doesn't means you take aggressive entries. Give some time to the market. So today not a bad action. So overall closing flattish था 16200 के around. So if you look at the top gainers, again the autos and steel. So steel के लिए there were some media reports. So फ्राइडे को भी यही हुआ था स्टील में कि वो चाइना का पैकेज का डिक्लेरेशन हुआ था, उसके बाद स्टील के मतलब मेटल स्टॉक्स वेर मूविंग हायर. But you should also remember that in China the COVID fear is a lot. In some of the area they are telling that जो initial जो first wave आया था मार्च 2020 फेब 2020 में, वहाँ पे उतना हाई प्रेशर बनता जा रहा है वहाँ पे, एंड स्पेसिफिकली ऑन द कोविड. सो थोड़ा लॉकडाउन होगा, थोड़ा स्लो डाउन होगा, तो this package as well as the slowdown worked on to cancel it out each other. But yes, overall the sentiment had improved after that package, that okay, the government is proactive and looking to improvise the economy out of this slowdown. So I think the metal stock autos are doing really well, not a problem. So Eicher Motor was the top winner today. Dr. Reddy reclaimed its 200 DMA. So this is what I was saying, that the stocks are moving. So आज डॉक्टर रेड्डी ने अपना 200 डीएमए रिक्लेम किया. And yes, M&M again, it is in the top gainers list and trading near its 52-week highs. So on the flip side, Bharati Airtel 5% loss. There were news around that Adani is going to for 5G auction, but the group has clarified that they are not going into this mobile business, but they have their lot of businesses like in the ports, in the logistic, in the airport. So they want to improve that technology over there, and that's the reason they are going for the 5G option. But anyways, like this was also looking at technically weak, and it got under major pressure. TCS. So we discussed the result in the pre-bell. So at so some of you might not be joining. Then I'm just telling you at 8:45 every day in the morning we come up with a pre-bell. जैसे कि after hour है वैसे pre-bell होता है, and there we had discussed about the TCS results was not that very encouraging. Missed now as far as the profit as well as the margins are concerned. 19-20% का attrition भी था, and I think they are giving some bonuses and promotion करने वाले हैं. So जो कॉस्ट है उनका और भी बढ़ेगा, एंड मार्जिन माइट रिमेन अंडर प्रेशर. प्लस दैट वी ऑलरेडी डिस्कस कि बिजनेस सिनेरियो जो है, नया डील्स है, बिजनेस का ग्रोथ है, दैट माइट नॉट बी very good visibility because everyone is debating about the soft lending and hard lending. US economy का क्या होगा. So a lot of spending of the companies depends on how the economy is performing, how the earnings are. So वहाँ पे भी again TCS में या कोई भी इंडियन आईटी कंपनीज है जो फॉरेन की बड़ी मेजर कंपनीज है, उनका स्पेंडिंग कैसा रहेगा, टेक्नोलॉजी साइड उस पर डिपेंडेंट है. सो वहाँ पे क्लियर विजिबिलिटी नहीं है. सो there was a bit pressure in TCS, and after TCS result HCL Infico भी वो 2-3% मार दिया, and again HPCL was also on the list. So I have this list of advancers and decliners for last 18-20 months. Yes. So if you look since last 2 months, May का 0.75 था advance decline ratio. So I think it was lowest after जो ये मार्च में फॉल हुआ था. यस, ओवर हियर February March ये कोविड वाला फॉल था, उसके बाद 0.75 was I think the lowest. Yes, and last month June 22 was 0.79. So see, generally, a lot of traders use these indications, advanced decline to look at the overbought, oversold market, but not going deeper into that, as that's not what we do. But generally, yes, a very low ratio do indicate that there is some oversold market, and the market is in the correction phase. और वहां से जब improvise होता है, then that is always better. So we discussed this in other way that whenever a follow through day comes, we always look for 2-3 things कि कौन से स्टॉक लीड कर रहे हैं, स्टॉक का मूविंग एवरेजेस के ऊपर जा रहा है, लीडिंग स्टॉक 5200. एंड यू माइट हैव सीन ऑलवेज इन आवर डेली बिग पिक्चर वी डिस्कस अबाउट द एडवांस डिक्लाइन रेशियो. सो व्हेनेवर यू हैव अ ब्रॉडर मार्केट परफॉर्मिंग वेल, and also there is a follow through day index ka performance, so everything is in place. So that's the best time to invest and to get the best earn, to get the best return on your investment. So currently the ratio is quite weak, but I think it is improving as far as the July is concerned. यहाँ से थोड़ा जो advanced decline ratio है ये मंथ में काफी improve. जनरली इतना लो नहीं होता है, if you might have seen. So 0.75, 0.79, so this was quite low. Okay. Yes, so Nifty remains in a rally attempt, not getting that strong action to convert it into a confirm uptrend. But the good part is, see over here, Thursday को briefly ये 50 DMA red line is the 50 DMA reclaim किया था, and Friday traded about that. Again today the low था वो उसके ऊपर ही था. So you should always mark this. जब भी let's say for example ये green line है 21 DMA है, ये red is 50. तो जब भी कोई 50 या 21 day moving average reclaim होता है, then you should always remember one thing that second day या फिर the same day जो उसका low होता है intraday low, let's say for the index or for the stock in that case, there also this thing is applicable. तो उसका जो low होता है वो that particular moving averages के ऊपर होना चाहिए. Let's say for example यहाँ पे 1680 16080 के अराउंड कुछ 50 डीएमए का लेवल है. तो अभी आज का निफ्टी का लो उसके ऊपर था. सो दिस इज समथिंग पॉजिटिव. सो 2 consecutive days the low was above the moving averages, and yes, consolidation is never a problem, so that is always good. So you guys, lot of people discuss that कि जो मोमेंटम था वो रुक गया है मार्केट में कि नीचे से रिकवरी आया, बट दैट इज नॉट द केस. ऐसे 2-3 दिन में मोमेंटम नहीं रुकता है. मॉर्निंग ऑल्सो देयर वाज अ क्वेश्चन कि देखो यहाँ पे एक कंसोलिडेशन हुआ था जस्ट बिफोर इट रिक्लेम्ड इट्स 21 डीएमए, and if 2-3 days 4 days of consolidation, but if it remains about 50 DMA, then that is very good. So what you need to note is कि हाँ 50 DMA रहना चाहिए, and more stocks should reclaim key moving averages. Advanced decline ratio should be skewed towards the advancers. So if those things happens, then that's better. So there was a business update from Coal India today. So their capex grew 65% on a YY basis in Q1. Around 3100 crore ka capex tha, which is quite good. And if you can see, the stock is forming stage 2 cup with handle base over here. Handle formation was also on a relatively lower volume. I want to see some volume over here. So since last 3 days, Friday ko acha volume tha, but yeah, before the breakout. So 0 to 5% is always the ideal buy zone. But for the breakout, you need a very high volume. At least ऐसे market में अगर आप देखें 40-50% higher than the average volume. So this horizontal line over here is the average volume line जो यहाँ पे आप देख रहे हैं. अगर उससे 40-50% ज़्यादा volume पे breakout होता है, then that is very positive. So these are the stocks that are holding well, जिसका relative strength line अच्छा strong है. These should be the part of your watch list. So yeah, overall the business update was very positive. Not only the capex side, but I think there was a comment. Excuse me. Yeah, that the production tempo is keeping up double-digit growth in FY23 so far. So if it remains well, then it's always positive. हाँ, एक चीज है कि जो पावर सेक्टर से डिमांड है वो जनरली मॉनसून में थोड़ा कम हो जाता है रिलेटिवली compared to the other season. But I think the e-auctions and the requirement from the other industries, so that is positive for Coal India. So no problem at that front also. Now, if you look at the dollar index, this is a multi-year high. So यहाँ पे somewhere around 2001 2 में. So this is a yearly chart. So January 2000 यहाँ पे है. If you can see this one. So यहाँ पे एक बार गया था above 110, right? और this was the period when it was somewhere between 107 to 115. But after that, it has never went higher than that. So this is at a multi-year high, the dollar index. And so that's the reason why the Indian currency has also depreciated, and somewhere it is around 79.4. But relatively अगर देखें बाकी का जो currencies है, India is a little better than the others. अगर ऑस्ट्रेलिया का आप देखो, यूरो देखो, so euro is almost now at a lowest in a 2 decade. So बाकी की अगर आप currency से compare करोगे, then Indian rupees is standing well. So one thing is there that again the crude oil the range है थोड़ा lower shift हो गया है, around 105 का average है पिछले कुछ दिन का. So if crude remains a bit lower, then it might not have a major impact on CAD for India. And if I think the dollar index can, if it can peak out over here, then it is always better for India and the other emerging market as well. The chart of the day. So today we have the team has selected Adani Enterprises. So it's a fundamentals are quite good, hugely diversified business income, and currently it is forming stage 2 base. So it is just 2% to pivot. So today's action was very good. It closed near the day's high of the day range. and the volume was also above average. So ये जो red horizontal line है उसके ऊपर है. So volume was on above average and more than 2% of gains. So that is something positive. One more thing you should look over here is the RS rating is constantly trading higher the RS line even in the weak market. कि यहाँ पे जो period था जब ये consolidate किया और relative strength hold किया, the market was very weak. And so this stock is held in the weak market. So it's always positive whenever the stock holds well in a relatively weak market. और 200 DMA तक तो ये आया ही नहीं है, बट जनरली ये 50 के अराउंड ही ऑसिलेट किया था. सो इट हैज सम ग्लू अराउंड इट्स 50 DMA व्हिच इज वेरी पॉजिटिव. इस टाइप के मार्केट में जब ये स्टॉक 50 DMA के आसपास ही रहता है, वहां से कोई मेजर ब्रेकडाउन नहीं देता and remains almost 10 12 15% above 200 DMA, then that is really it is holding well and you should have a watch on those stocks. So yeah, some comments in the chat box, or should we conclude the session? Mayuresh, any comments from your side?
No, so Rushit largely covered. I think 1-2 developments that happened were on the telecom side over the weekend. News of Adani getting into as a non-telecom player into the 5G auction spectrum part. So I think it's largely a move that is intended, at least at this point of time, to be more captive in nature. But if he tries to bundle out or roll out after having that spectrum or lease it out to other players within the private space, competition then can become a little bit intense. Enterprise, so this all comes under the enterprise business for existing players, including Bharati. So Bharati had a major reaction today with that kind of a news. But large element here again is revolving around the fact. Can't you hear me? I think I'm speaking pretty loudly.
Yes, clear. Mayuresh.
Yeah. So Sai, have a look at your mics or your headphones. So to that extent, it's still a 10-15% kind of a contribution to the EBIT part. But yes, I think that is one space where if you look at Concall, Bharati, Reliance have evinced a lot of interest coming through. So large element is again in terms of how this whole action speeds up, whether it has a pricing disruption, so on and so forth. But I think a sentimental negative can be a sentimental positive for a stock like Indus, right? Again, sentimental is not a buy or a sell. Just observe how the chart patterns are, so on and so forth. Because if private players get in, the tower usage will probably go up because tower infrastructure is not something that they like to put up. They will have existing towers in a 5G space to be put up, and some of these optical fiber guys as well will always remain in focus for all these elements as well. So have a look at that. Tarsans, I think we discussed. So please have a look at our earlier webinar. We discussed Tarsans in detail in our last week's webinar. But largely, if you want that, again, a leader in plastic labware, market size is obviously going to improve significantly. So from glass used instruments to plastic labware and plastic based instruments, there becomes a lot of difference in terms of the overall pie. The pie can actually reverse. So the expectation largely is that a 2,500 crore market cap on this labware market can actually be around 3.5, 4,000, and with glass dominating at 75%, the exact reverse can happen in the next 3 to 4 years. So capacities are decent, top line growth has been reasonable, margin performance has been good, but again, have a look in terms of how the charts are shaping up. I do not have that in front of me right now. How charts are shaping up, whether they fulfill our parameters as far as Cancelim is concerned, and then accordingly have a judgmental call done. Pennar, Aditya, not any particular view. I think a huge order was won by Pennar, I think a couple of days back. But largely, again, I think the point here remains twofold. One, in terms of execution capabilities, how has been the EPS growth in the last few quarters, in the last few years, and how consistently will that earnings trajectory continue? It's relatively smaller in size, relatively smaller compared to the larger players at this point of time, and therefore, I think the inherent risk Obviously, in the next couple of quarters, is going to be input cost inflation, which means raw material prices are going to probably hamper a lot of the working capital needs. And the second element obviously happens in terms of execution itself. So I think what kind of a working capital cycle does the company go through, and how does that relate into the cash flows, and specifically from the ONE lens in terms of the EPS strength and the EPS ratings as well. So I will look at all these parameters as well. Ramesh, Asai glass, architectural glass, automotive glass, doing phenomenally well. The one advantage that these guys had till the last quarter was they were having very low cost inventory in terms of usage, and therefore the margins that they posted about 20%, if I recollect correctly, was primarily based on that. But a large element in what the management is trying to put forth now is that inventory costs might actually go a little bit higher. Autos are doing well. Real estate stroke architecture as a quasi play is expected to continue doing well because real estate offtake and auto uptake that we've seen recently with new launches can do well. But there might be some element of margin pressure as far as Asai Glass is concerned for this quarter or two. And you have to be very, very cognizant of the fact that this quarter and the next, there will be huge disruptions in terms of how reported numbers will be. So the street will expect that numbers might be a little bit on the worse side. But if they are far worse, then the stock might actually take a beating. So let's be a little bit cognizant about that as well. So Himadri Jai, I think we discussed that last week. As Rushit was also mentioning very clearly, right? It did reflect in the curated list at MarketSmith on stocks making a new RS high. Actually did that last week and gave a huge move today. So I think have a look at the stocks. As I've always mentioned, three aspects of our research report we've also covered in terms of new RS lines or new highs that an RS line makes. What Rushit explained for Adani Enterprises right now. In a falling market, if the RS line is holding up, if the stock is coming down also with the market, but with lower volumes, but still relatively holding up compared to its peers and the overall market, means that the stock is doing something right. If it's not significantly off its highs, so not significantly, by that I mean not more than 10 or 15 odd percent, and the right side of these bases have become very, very constructive. Himadri also was a very, very similar setup in terms of all these aspects as well. And similarly to all the setups that are appearing in the RS line, have a look at those setups as well. I think a couple of interesting setups are coming through. So study them, and we'll discuss that tomorrow in the evening. So I think I'm largely done from my side. So thanks guys for tuning in, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks Rushit for
Thanks everyone. Thanks Mahesh. Bye.